Good morning, everybody. My name is Michelle Ward, and I'm with the Partnership for Environmental Education and Rural Health here at Texas A&M University in College Station, Texas. It's interesting for us to look out and see you guys in your classrooms because we see everybody from short sleeves and shorts in Texas all the way to their heavy coats in Minnesota and Oregon. So that's kind of neat, us looking at the different students there. Today's presentation is titled Anatomy and Physiology Part 2, and it's brought to you by the Science and Education Partnership Award, sponsored by the National Institutes of Health. Today's presenter is going to be Dr. Larry Johnson, and Dr. Johnson is a professor at Texas A&M University in the Department of Veterinary Integrative Biosciences. So Dr. Johnson, take it away.
Thank you, Michelle. We want to welcome you to our video conference. I'm a professor at Texas A&M. I teach histology, which is using microscopes to look at tissues and things. And then also I teach a course in scientific ethics. But today we're going to talk about anatomy and physiology with different organs as part 2 of the system. So part 2 is what we're going to have. We're going to cover a little bit about what is anatomy and physiology again. And then we'll go through the digestive system, respiratory, cardiovascular, urinary, nervous, endocrine, and special senses. So we have to really travel along, but we have a lot of nice specimens to show you along the way. Now, the anatomy is the structure of things, as opposed to physiology is the function of things. Mechanical function, physical function, biochemical function, different functions of living things. So if we see a horse here, we see the anatomy. We see the muscles of the horse, see connective tissue, legs of the horse, ears and tails of the horse. That's all anatomy. But what the horse can do with that, have you ever seen a flying horse before? This is a horse jumping using that anatomy to do so. Also inside that horse is a digestive system. And so here we can see the different parts of the digestive system in you and I. And it has different components to it, as we'll see in a minute. But right now, these organs are involved in prehension, which is actually getting food that happens in your oral cavity and then going down through the esophagus. And then we have digestion, that it goes in the stomach. Stomach has hydrochloric acid, pepsinogen, different things to break down food stuff. And then we have absorption. The absorption occurs in the small intestines largely, and then we have the elimination of the products at the end. So we have oral cavity, we have tonsils up there, we have salivary glands up there, we have esophagus, which transfers food from the mouth down to the stomach by paracelsus. You have contractions of smooth muscle that squeezes the pipe down. And then we have the stomach for the digestion to occur, small intestines for absorption, and then the large intestines to store feces and all until we eliminate those. And here you can see a cow. Cow has actually 4 chambers to its stomach, but regardless of how many chambers you have, the digestive system does 3 basic things. One is it moves food from one location to the other. It starts in the top and it ends up in the bottom. And paracelsus, contraction of the smooth muscle, squeezes that food forward. Also, there's secretion of digestive juices. That's what the digestive tract does. And they start with the saliva in your mouth. And then it goes through the hydrochloric acid, and pepsinogen and things are produced in the stomach. And even in the small intestines, you'll have mucus being secreted. The other thing that's important in the digestive tract is absorption of food stuff. So you take in food, an apple, or orange, or a piece of meat, it breaks it down into the components, and then the digestive system absorbs those different components of water, electrolytes as well. So there's different kinds of stomachs. Horses, dogs, cats, humans have a single chamber for a stomach, but a cow has multiple stomachs. You can see it has a big stomach, which is the rumen. It has another stomach, reticulum, omasum, and then abdomasum. And here we can see those different components, and I have a specimen here to show you as well. This is a specimen that we have. These are the stomachs of a cow. This will be sitting on the left-hand side of the cow. And then this is esophagus coming down from the oral cavity. And then we have the reticulum, the omasum, and the abdomasum, and the ruminant. This is the ruminant right through here. So these are the different, and this is in contrast to you and I, which has a single chamber stomach as opposed to a 4-chamber stomach of a cow. This allows cows to eat grass and grow microbes inside there, which will actually eat the grass itself, and then she eats the microorganisms that are involved. So in addition to the 4 stomachs of a cow, we have a horse, which is a little different than the cow. We see there's a big cecum, which is, here we can see here, which is a blind pouch in the horse. And we can see the horse. I'll have to move a little bit to get that one. This is the horse. And you can see there's a little bit of small intestine here. And then this is the large intestine of a horse, which is very, very big, as you can see. And this is the blind pouch, the cecum associated with this. And so this is opening up to the small intestines. So here you can see the large intestine, small intestine going into the large intestine, and it has the cecum. A lot of grass could be stored in there. So we can see actually in a mule would also have the 1-chamber stomach and the large cecum as well. So if we switch to the respiratory system provides multicellular animals, which is what we are, and that's what we see there, with a mechanism to exchange oxygen with the environment and to get rid of carbon dioxide is what it does. And you can see here in this human where you have a tube that goes to the outside so we can get air in to the lungs, and in the lungs itself you have a series branching and branching. At the end of all these branches you have an alveolus or an air sac, and each one of those are surrounded by blood vessels that we see on the left-hand side. Those blood vessels in through there, which carry the oxygen out of the airspace throughout the body. And so the structure are the different branching and branching that we see, the airway that go from the outside to the inside, and then the gases exchange actually is a function of it, which occurs in the little alveoli, which are right off the bronchioles. The bronchioles are a small airway that we see there. So in 2 words, the function of the respiratory system is gas exchange. Oxygen diffuses out and carbon dioxide diffuses into the airspace. And you know what diffusion is. Diffusion is a spontaneous process by which things equalize. So you could take a heater and put it in the middle of the room and it could heat the whole room up, and it would do that by diffusion. So if you had a heater here, it could heat the whole room by simply diffusion or equalization, and that's what happens with your gases exchange, go from a high concentration to a low concentration in either case. And so here we can see what happens. You have the air is in the alveolus and the blood is in the capillary, and what happens is oxygen goes from the airspace into the blood, and carbon dioxide goes out of the blood into the airspace to be discharged. So gas exchange is a function of the respiratory system. In order to do that, you have to have a series of little air sacs with blood vessels in the wall so you can have gases exchanged to occur. If you look in the airway, you see these cells, certain cells, ciliated cells that move mucus along. And you can see in the next slide what happens is that mucus or fluid is produced in there, and the dust particles gets trapped in there, and like that little boat, it's just washed away by the ciliary action or the movement of the little hairs at the end of the cells. And this is where cigarette smoking comes in. Cigarette smoking kills those cells. So your motorboat has no motor to move the mucus out, and so a person has to cough it out. That's why a smoker has a cough, because smoking kills these cells that move the mucus out. So in the lungs, and we can see lungs here, and here we can see if you would take caulking and put down the lung, maybe show our lung. If you would take a lung, here we see a lung. This is the lungs of a horse that you see there, and there's a trachea coming down from there. And so if you would take caulking and put it inside the trachea like this, what it would do, it would take the shape of the air spaces. And so you can see that in the lungs you have a series of branching and branching and branching with larger pipes and smaller pipes, and finally get to the bronchioles that you have there. So in the lungs you have a series of branching and branching and branching. And so here you can see if you put caulking inside there, it will take the shape of the air spaces, and you can see where the air goes through the bigger, and this is what I just showed you now, is inside the lungs you have all this branching. Okay, one heart or two?
Two.
Here's another dog heart, and here is a cow heart, much bigger, as you can see there. So how many chambers do we have in a heart? We have 4 chambers, right? 1, 2, 3, 4 chambers in the heart. And what I was showing you a while ago was the respiratory system. This is the lungs of a horse, and right there would be where the heart would be in the horse. So we have the trachea, which is like your neck. You have the tracheal rings that are in there to hold the lungs open. And this is caulking, you could put caulking around the window to seal the window. If you put it inside there, it would take the shape of the air spaces. And then I don't know, did you guys see did y'all see the specimens too? Did you see the different chambers of the digestive system of the cow, where you have the rumen, the reticulum, omasum, abdomasum, in through there? Okay, here we can see where the blood vessels interact with the urinary system. And so this you see capillaries in through there, and fluid comes out of the blood and makes urine. And so this is the beginning of the urinary, this is a nephron, the single unit of a nephron that ultimately takes fluid out of the kidney. And here we can see some different kidneys. This is the kidney. You've heard of kidney bean shape, right? They are shaped like a kidney, as you see. This is a urinary bladder right here. And these are the ureters that go from the kidney, taking the urine to the urinary bladder. So this is one type of kidney. As you see there, it looks like our kidney. But here's a kidney of a horse, which it looks a little bit different than what we have in humans and all. And this is one from a cow that's actually lobulated. It's different ways that has different lobes in it as well. So these are different types of kidneys. Here we can see a kidney, and there we can see the cortex, which is the outside, and then we can see the blue is where the blood vessels are, and the red is where the arteries, blue veins, and then the yellow is where the urine is. So you see it's all kind of close together, but they're in different cavities. Okay, we're talking about the respiratory system, and inside the lungs you have all these alveoli. And the reason we have all the branching and branching and branching is to increase the surface area. In fact, the surface area will be the size of a tennis court inside your lung for you to exchange areas due to all the branching and branching and branching. Here we can see the lungs, yellow here, of a little cat, and the heart. So it shows you how the heart is associated with the lungs. And we will go to the cardiovascular system. Is another system, has a series of blood vessels and draining lymphatics as well. And here we can see the blood vessels in a human. This is from Bonnie Worrells. Here we can see it again. Blood vessels going up, big ones going up through your neck to your brain, as well as throughout the body. Now, the cardiovascular system has the heart, and I just showed you guys a heart, a couple of hearts. When the heart contracts, that squeezes the chamber of the heart, and that reduces the volume inside the chamber, and that increases the pressure. And so that's the source of pressure that then is seen in the blood vessels. And you can see the ones on the left, there actually is a pulse in the blood vessels, in the aorta, arteries, and then the arterioles, the ones right before the capillaries. No longer do you have a pulse after those. So you don't have a pulse in the capillaries, but the capillary has the largest area that we see there. You can't poke a hole anywhere in your skin without hitting a capillary. So coming right out of the heart is, you have these elastic blood vessels that expand and they recoil, and that's what maintains the pressure in between the heartbeats. So you have muscular arteries that carry blood. Arterioles are the ones that stop the pulse. The flow continues, but it's a steady flow that goes through the capillaries, where you have the gases exchange and nutrients exchange and waste exchange. And then you have the venules. Sometimes you maybe get stung by a bee and it swells up, and it's the venules that leak. It causes the edema that goes there. Now, and when you come back toward the heart, you have the veins, and the large veins are a reservoir. You can see the bottom two parts of the pie there, large and small veins, is a source of blood for reserve. In fact, we can give blood because we have extra blood in those large veins that we see. So we have the heart, which actually causes the pressure, and then you have elastic arteries, which expand, muscular arteries, which restrict the flow. The muscles in the arteries itself do not have, they restrict, they do not cause blood to flow. And then we have exchange of nutrients and all through the veins, large veins.
Now, we did have a teacher, Miss Wright's 7th grade class, sent in some questions, and one of their questions was, why is blood red?
Okay, the reason blood is red is because hemoglobin inside the blood holds iron. Iron is red. If you've ever seen a red rock, the rock will have iron in it. And so it's the iron inside the hemoglobin that makes the blood red. If you just have hemoglobin without iron, it would not be red, because amino acids are not red. What's red is the iron that's inside there. And the iron inside the hemoglobin is very important, because that's what binds to the oxygen and the carbon dioxide to allow it to transport these gases throughout the body.
It's a great question from Heiko, Texas.
Okay, and so we see the cardiovascular system. In the olden days, before the 1900s, they didn't realize that there were blood types. And so when they would give transfusion, they would mix up the different types of blood. You've heard of type A, type B, different types of blood. And they didn't know that in the beginning. They would give the wrong type by mistake in those days. Thank goodness we got modern medicine. And so here we see the cardiovascular system in the cow, as well as the human. And we see blood vessels. Blood vessels, a mechanism. We have multicellular animals can get nutrients and get rid of waste. It distributes oxygen, nutrients, hormones, collects waste, and transports the waste to excretory organs, which would be the kidneys. The muscles inside the blood vessels are innervated. That is, nerves interact with these muscles and tell these muscles to be partly contract or to contract totally. And here we can see a little bunny. This is a drawing of a bunny, and it shows you tone. Tone is a state of partial contraction of a blood vessel, and it restricts the blood flow. That's what we see on the left-hand side in a normal one. But if you would cut the nerve that innervates the blood vessels will open up due to the pressure and the lack of contractions of the smooth muscle in there, and you will be able to see that the lumen, or the cavity inside the blood vessels, is much larger on the right than the left, because the muscles in the blood vessels are not contracted on the right, because the nerve stimulating that has been cut. And so here we see in humans the blood vessels going through the heart, the kidney, the liver, and then the blood's going down to the different legs as well as the brain. So that brings us to the urinary system. The urinary system, it produces urine, it stores the urine, and it eliminates urine is what the urinary system does. And in the urinary system we have the connection between the blood vessels and the urine, and the nephron is the one urinary tube that connects with the blood vessels. So here we see some kidneys, and here, as I just showed you a while ago, this where the blood blood vessels go inside the nephron, and fluid comes out of those, and that fluid is urine. That is, it's pre-urine. The urine is modified as it goes through the tube.
Another question from that same class, Miss Wright's class, Marisol wanted to know, why do we have 2 kidneys instead of just 1?
Okay, we have 2 kidneys because we're basically bilateral. We have many things on the right and left have 2 different sides. It's a reserve capacity. So if you happen to lose 1 kidney, you could still live with a single kidney. But it's just a redundant reserve capacity, so you can be able to withstand losing 1 and also be able to respond to situations, maybe high salt or something that you are exposed to by having 2 kidneys. But you can live with just 1 kidney, but you do need to have at least a kidney. If you don't have a kidney, you have to go through dialysis to clean the blood, where they actually hook up something to your blood vessels and get blood out to clean it.
That's another great question.
And so here we see we have 2 kidneys, urinary bladder, and the urethra is where it goes out. And here we can see there's different types of kidneys. I showed you that one of a cow versus the human, where they're lobulated or a single one. So the cows on the left, and a dog would be one on the right. It would be similar to the human. And I showed you this where you see the red is the arteries, blue is the veins, the blood in the veins, and the yellow is the urine being produced by that kidney. And that brings us to the nervous system. The neuron is the building blocks of a nervous system. It's the cell. Neurons receive information from different parts of the organ, of the body. Neurons are interconnected by nerve cords. Neurons interact with other neurons. Neurons interact with muscle cells as well. The brain is for centralization of information, and the spinal cord, long projections so that everything doesn't have to come back to the brain. If someone touches something hot, just a signal goes from that hot to the spinal cord and then back. It doesn't have to go to the brain and say, hey, I've hit something hot. You're going to pull your hand back in a reflex that we have. So somatic nerves are the ones that control things, control our muscles, control my vocal cords right now as I'm speaking to you. Then autonomic are the ones we cannot control. Smooth muscles, cardiac muscles in the heart, glands, we can't control them. You can't say, I want more glandular secretion. You can't do that. It just does it automatically. And so the function of the nervous system is to control the function and movement of organs and the body. It works with the endocrine system to control and regulate all the activities. It receives information or sensory. It receives things. You see something is a sensory type thing. You feel something, the five senses, and then it processes that information, and then you have a proper response. Maybe you would jump to get away from a snake or something that you saw. And so the function of the nervous system is communication. And the neurons is the main cell. Neurons are very irritable. They respond to a wide range of things, and they have conductivity is what they do. So basically you receive information, you process it, and you transmit it. And one of the questions we had before was, how does the brain know what to do? Well, there's different aspects of knowing what to do. There's some things that are just hardwired. Like if you ever seen a little bird eating, and he eats and looks around, eat, looks around, eat, looks around. All that's hardwired. He's not thinking about that. It's just a mechanism by which he survives. Also, there's other things, the response that you have when you touch something. You don't think about that. It's just a response that occurs. And then, of course, you have responses based on your experience. And so you remember things and you learn things to learn how to do this. Someone has to practice to be able to be a football player or an opera singer. They have to practice that to stimulate their muscles to do something, but it's all controlled by the brain. And so with the nervous system, we can see that a nerve would be attached to several muscle cells. These are individual muscle cells, and they would stimulate those muscle cells to contract in harmony is what they would do. Now here we can see, why does a person ride a roller coaster? You can see these kids riding a roller coaster. When we're doing that, we release hormones. The nervous system sees the roller coaster, see you going upside down, and release these hormones from the adrenal. And that brings us to the endocrine system. The endocrine system is very important. And here you can see a dwarf with ET. It was a series of small organs that release hormones that stimulate other things, targets a long distance away. It can be produced by a brain and go to your thyroid or to other glands of the body. And so here we can see two little boys. One is 10 years old and one is 9. The one on the left side is actually 9 years old. But the one on the right was not receiving enough growth hormone, and so he has stunted growth. So between the age of 3 and 9, you should grow about 2 inches a year. And if you don't, that's a red flag that you may need some growth hormone. However, and here you can see, remember E.T., extraterrestrial, mostly it was played by a robot. But some places, I think when they were trick-or-treating, they actually had a dwarf to play that part. But too much hormone, growth hormone. Look how tall this guy is, 8 feet and 5 inches. Long, very tall individual. And so there's different glands. You have pituitary gland, which gets a signal from the brain to make hormones that stimulates the rest of the body. And then you have a thyroid. You have the parathyroid. You have the adrenals, which is what releases epinephrine in case of you're scared, or if you're really scared or stressed or nervous, you will release some of these hormones either from the inside of the adrenal, which would be like epinephrine, or from the outside. Cortisol is another thing. And then there's pancreas, gonads, placenta, GI tract. All these have some endocrine components to it. And I only have one endocrine organ to show you here. Here we can see this is the stomach, the liver, and this right here is the pancreas. The pancreas, which produces insulin for us to get sugar into cells. If we don't have that, we will be like a diabetic. Okay, so I think that brings us to one more thing, which is the exosenses. Hormones. Here we can see a little bit about hormones, the release of hormones, and the amount of hormones really controlled. 10 to the 13 would be a dwarf, 10 to the minus 11 molar would be a giant. So just 10-fold or 20-fold difference would make a difference in whether you were one thing or another. Here we see eyes as one of our senses, hearing is another one, taste is another one, and smell is another one of the senses that we see. Here we see a cross-section of the human brain, and we can see the eye that we see. Here we see, a long time back, they had eyeglasses that were used, even made bifocals in those days. And here's a little trick. So if everybody look at this slide for a minute, can you see dots in between the corners of these? If you can see dots up there, they're in your imagination. There are no dots in those corners, but you can see the dots. Raise your hand if you can see dots in the corners. Yeah, some people see, they do. Okay, here's another one. Do these lines look parallel, or do they look like they're slanty? See, they look like they are diagonal, but they're actually all parallel. All those blocks are the same side, even though it looks like they're not. It tricks you because of the way the blocks are offset. It tricks your brain. Here's another one. You can see that dot in the center is the same size regardless of what it's surrounded by. They look different. It looks larger in the bottom, but it's the same size. Here's another one. If you look in the center, you can see the ones on the outside are moving. So the brain can't sort that out. None of them are moving, of course, and if you would focus on one on the outside, you see it's not moving. But if the ones that are on your peripheral vision is the ones that look like they're moving because the brain can't sort that out.
There's a cute little YouTube video that we saw of a cat with that picture in front of it, and the cat's actually swatting at it thinking that it's really moving, and the cat's so confused about it.
Yes. So here we see the eyes of the human in YouTube, and here we can see the body world, I should have said. We see the eyes, the white of the eye is connective tissue, or the sclera, and you see the pupil, which is open in the eye. And so here you can see the eye is very much like a camera. And we want to show you a couple of specimens. Here we can see the specimens that we have. This is the eyeball that's been cut down. And you can see the cornea sticking out. And you can see the lens behind it. The kind of light structure that you see back there is the lens and the optic nerve. And here you see the optic nerve here again on this one. And then we can see the muscles that allow you to move your eyes around. And then here we have another little specimen where you show the eyes in relation to the brain. And so you can see the eyes up here and the brain. So the eyes are very close to the brain there, of course, and taking information to the brain. So there's what we saw, and there we see the eyes in connection with the brain. The spinal cord is coming out of the bottom of the middle of it, and then we here see the eye. Insects have compound eye, as you see, as opposed to the human does. They have one side for each one. Here you can see a little bit about the embryology of the eye. The lens is really from the skin. And here we can see the retina has different layers. And some of those, here we can see we're getting close to the end. We're going to have to hurry up. I just wanted to show you that there's different colors in the eye. There's different combs respond to different colors, and the reason you have those on the street light is because those are the primary colors of our eye. The other one is blue. We don't want to see that one. That's the police car. We don't want to see that. So we have. So we talked about different organs throughout the system, and we want to know if there's any additional questions that we have.
Okay, we're going to go first to Lions Creek Middle School. If you guys can unmute your mics, do you guys have a question for Dr. Johnson there?
Certainly, go ahead.
Okay. If you've had blood disease, can you donate blood?
Okay, great question.
No. I wouldn't say that about every disease. I would think, no, they would not want to have blood. Even if you get a tattoo, you can't give blood. If you get a bone transplant, you can't give blood. There's a lot of reasons you can't get blood, and certainly if you had a disease, they would not want to take the chance of transferring that disease to another person.
Okay, that's a great question. You guys have another one there?
Okay, go ahead. Can you live with half of your brain?
You can live with half of your brain. You would have diminished function. Maybe you wouldn't be able to walk. Maybe you couldn't do some things, but you wouldn't be able to think and as much as you would. But you could live without some of your parts of your brain. But other parts would be very important for motion and also for contraction of your respiratory system. You'd have to have some minimum component to be able to do that, unless you were on artificial respiration. But without your brain, the brain can be dead. Someone asked about what is brain dead. You do not have electrical impulses in the brain when your brain dead. The heart will still keep pumping, but you won't be receiving any senses from your five senses.
And it would be true to say it'd be dependent on which part of the brain is missing. So large part of your brain, the cerebrum, I guess.
Yes, cerebrum.
But you couldn't live without the center that controls your
The basic
involuntary, your breathing and all that.
Right.
Very good question. Is Mitchell Creek, Oregon still there?
Mitchell's here.
Would you guys like to ask a couple of questions?
Yes, ma'am. If you damage the tube to your liver, like really bad, will you die even if your liver is like not damaged?
Are you speaking about the blood vessels going into the liver, or are you talking about the bile coming out?
The
The
blood
first
vessels
one.
going.
Okay, the blood vessels, yeah. Well, if you get the blood vessels going in through there, eliminate the blood going in through there, you wouldn't be able to have the liver function. And so you won't be able to clean the components out. You need to have a liver. So no, it would not function.
Can I ask another question?
Yes.
What causes urine to be yellow or clear?
What happens is sometimes it's in the concentration of the urine. If it's really concentrated, it'll be yellow. If it's really watery, it'll be clear. And so if you drink a lot of water during the day, you'll have clear urine. But if you do an activity, like maybe you're driving in a car for a long time, or maybe sleeping at night, then the kidney concentrates the urine more, and so it becomes yellow.
So the more water, the less yellow, and the
Yes.
less water? Okay. Okay, well, we appreciate you guys tuning in to our conference. I know that we had some technical difficulties, and we appreciate you bearing with us on that. I know that you didn't get to see the first couple of slides, so if you're interested in catching those slides, you can go to our website. It's peer.tamu.edu, and we will put the slides and the video recording of this conference up there if you want to catch any of that on there. We appreciate you coming today, and we'd like to thank you for attending and thank the Science and Education Partnership Award Program from the National Institutes of Health for funding our programs.